we wanted to talk about like the most recent episode of hilarity and bizarreness in British politics. I mean, you can call it Pizzeriagate, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's, something like that has already been taken. But I think we should basically talk about that first. Because
Yeah,
then...
I think it's a good... Yeah, if you do edit this into multiple episodes, that would be a good one to get out first while
Exactly.
people still remember it, because it was very much a sort of... What would often, the sort of thing that happens all the time and would have passed by, just became like the main thing on like politics Twitter that day.
Yeah, let me get that cunt's Google review page up. We're going to cancel the fuck out of him.
Please do, I want some dramatic readings of him.
While I do that, you get like the Guardian stuff up.
Yeah, I've got Helen Pidd's Twitter with all the links to everything on up in front of me at the moment.
Very good.
Including a sort of tantrum / crap defences. I thought for a second she'd deleted all her kicking off tweets about it, but she hasn't. She's just been boosted ones that are normal, retweeting them. So there's been no further cover-up.
Well, I don't know. I think there has been a cover-up in a way.
Yeah.
Some of these reviews on the Google reviews page for 20 Man's Pizza strike me as not so much the work of a real, genuine man or woman as the work of a 20 man.
Oh, they've removed all the reviews on TripAdvisor that have been added since March by the look of it.
There's one an hour ago. Shit. 3 hours ago. Okay. I mean, maybe some of these are real.
What site are you on?
I'm just on Google.
Google reviews. Yeah,
Google reviews.
They don't bother moderating the fucking thing. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, you got 4 hours ago. Jeff Daniels, the famous actor, said bland pizza and poor service will not be coming back. 1-star review. I mean,
nice.
That one, may well be real. Another 1-star review.
Should we keep these back for dramatic readings at the appropriate point?
Exactly, yeah. I'm just hoping that one that I definitely didn't leave myself is still up. Oh yeah, there's been shitloads of these reviews in the space of one day, so yeah, probably will be. They just keep piling up.
So, The Guardian's North of England editor at The Guardian, Helen Pidd, I think she's been doing that role or similar for a while, and she's not that high profile. She pops up every few months, and she tends to be doing a kind of John Harris is away this week sort of act most of the time. She's very into a kind of very weird idea, like very specific idea of authenticity, and uses it to push some quite dodgy stuff. There was an article basically that was typical John Harris style stuff. It was about working class voters in Lee. Headlined, the justification is it's a response to the summer statement. What do the people out there think about Rishi Sunak's measures and everything like that, and the opposition? But it's headlined, of course, because he's still living inside all of their heads. Imagine the state we'd be in if Corbyn had been in charge. The view from the Red Wall.
Yeah, that's the quote they pulled from it.
Yeah.
Fucking wankers. Yeah. They were like,
so
you know what? Like Corbyn. How many times is Corbyn mentioned in it? That's like the editors just demanding, like, come here. How many times does Jeremy Corbyn's name pop up in this piece? Once. That's the headline. Is it saying that he's bad? Yes, it is. They just want to stick the boot in because they're sadistic fucks.
Yeah. That's exactly what they do, and they want to make sure that Corbyn gets the blame for everything for years beyond him being leader, and that it's still pushed out there every day that Corbyn is hated, to make sure he remains hated.
Yeah.
Subheading: working class voters in Lee do not regret voting for Tories after listening to Chancellor's summer statement. So that's the framing there. We're going to hear from some working class voters here. Before the pandemic hit, she and a photographer spent time there. It's a Red Wall constituency in Wigan. They'd just gone Conservative for the first time in more than 100 years. So it makes sense if they want to look at why these places have gone from Labour to Tory. That's a good place to go. They returned on Wednesday to ask what residents thought of Rishi Sunak's summer statement. They've asked 3 people, basically. Now, one of them is 16 years old, okay? One of them
they voted Tory?
Well, I mean, the framing of it, as Helen Pidd repeatedly pointed out on Twitter afterwards, was, look, it's important that we hear from lifelong Labour voters who have changed and voted Tory at the last election. So this 16-year-old, about to turn 16, she's 15 right now. She's just received a national insurance card, but she apparently voted Tory in December and had always voted Labour before that. So that's good to know.
I think it's very impressive to be a property developer already when you're 15.
Yeah, well, she'd heard it was getting increasingly hard to get a mortgage and wondered if she'll ever own her own home, with average prices already almost 190 grand where she lives. That's a genuine worry. A lot of people, a lot older than her, have even. And I definitely think when I worry about am I ever going to get a mortgage, my gut reaction there, my instinct is, I hope there's an election soon so I can vote for the Conservative Party, who will really help open up the housing market. There's no point in steaming in on her, like, she's 15, right? She's going to be quite naive. It's just why give such prominence to her views, right? But the second person they cover will actually...
Well, yeah, especially when you've got all these other fucking salt of the earth, Tom Joad style, the grime of working class life etched into their fingernails kind of guys.
But don't worry, we're going to hear from some of them. Now, I'm going to go for the third person they've covered out of three next for pure narrative coherence here. They've gone for a recently retired nurse and his partner, I believe. A nice old couple in their 60s, okay? He's a recently retired nurse, so not well paid. You can make the claim for him being working class, okay? Or coming from an ordinary background. He was an infectious diseases nurse, getting everyone on side. They're really important right now. And he is a massive
the best kind of diseases.
They've asked him for his views, and he is a massive racist. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
How many people they asked until they found the massive racist, you know? They might be loads of massive racists there, and it was easy to find one. They might have spoken to 20 people and just happened to pick out as one of the three they used, the one that was a massive racist. I know people that have seen John Harris at work at, like, football games in a town he's reporting on, a long way away from here, by the way, but they've seen him in action, chatting to loads of people, moving on from them quite quickly, and then talking to the fucking drunk idiot who yells stupid shit at the game 5 rows back, the one that everyone wishes would move his season ticket to the other side of the ground. And the sinking feeling they had that they knew that he'd be the one that they'd use in the final article. This is how these people work. So what Keith, the retired nurse, has to say, he recently retired from the NHS, worked for years as an infectious diseases nurse. He felt able to vote Tory only after burying his dad. He'd kill me.
I killed him.
Yeah.
I fucking killed my dad so I could
It
vote
is kind
Tory.
of worded like he was so desperate to vote Tory that he
buried
had
him alive.
He had to kill his dad. He had to finish him off. Like
it was like the scene in Casino. His dad was doing voiceover like, "I'm a lifelong Labour voter, me, salt of the earth," and just poof, he's just hit with a baseball bat. The voiceover stops, and his son's like, "You're gonna fucking dig your own fucking grave."
Yeah, that's word for word what happened. That's now fact. Okay, so he did it for two reasons. One, because with his dad dead, he can now vote Tory guilt free. And and two, he's voted Labour all his life before. Maybe other local Tories would doubt his commitment to the Conservative cause, but you killed your father. That you can't get more sort of
Allegedly.
libertarian think tank left than that, can you? That's fucking Murray Rothbard's dream right there.
But tell us about this man's views.
Yeah. So why did he want to vote Tory? Why did he vote Tory once his dad had died? He said he was primarily motivated by a desire to cut immigration in a borough that is 97% white.
That 3% can make all the difference, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and obviously, normally he'd be happy voting Labour with those views, but Caroline Flint is no longer an MP, so... Is she no longer an MP? We did get rid of her.
No, she's not. She lost her seat straight up.
What a shame.
Yeah, but Rachel
Sometimes
Reeves,
voting Tory is good.
Rachel Reeves has said like exactly the same shit that
of
Caroline
course.
Flint has said about immigration.
I think
like
Flint is the one that literally brought percentages into it. She was like, "Oh, my constituency was once 99.7% white, and now it's 96.8% white, or something like that." She literally brought out the percentages, and the percentage was still massively white. You know, there was a slight increase in immigration.
Out. I think I just tweeted about it, and then like Dan Hancock's went and looked it up, and he transcribed it.
Yeah.
And then a load of people were like, "Damn, that's really fucked up." But yeah, again, it's the kind of thing you can say in British media, and everyone's just like, "Oh, statistics, very clever."
And he's gone on to explain, whole sections of Labour that are colonised with new entrants, he said in March. So they actually spoke to him previously.
Anti-imperialist. This guy, he's decolonising.
They've actually spoke to him in March then, and just used his quotes now, 3 months later, even though they claim to have revisited the area. Whole sections are colonised with new entrants, he said in March, claiming that when he used to do contact tracing for TB, almost all the new infections came from asylum seekers from Africa and the Middle East. He was disappointed that Sunak had not announced anything to try and recruit the 43,000 nurses the NHS needs, which is when the two things you want are stop immigration, find 43,000 nurses immediately.
Down the back of the sofa.
It's a difficult task with a government that are a bit tight with the purse strings anyway. I mean, that would become 143,000 nurses they'd need, you know? It's incoherent. Well, and the only editorial in that whole 2 paragraphs that I've just basically read out there is the fact that the author has clarified the borough is 97% white. So there is a bit of a sort of snide, look, he is actually wrong, or just extremely racist. But that's it. The rest of it's just unchallenged. His claim, oh yeah, these asylum seekers are spreading TB. It's just, is she going to look into that? Is she going to look and see if there is any basis for that at all? And if not, clarify, there is no basis for this at all that I can find, you know, no statistical evidence. No.
God forbid you wouldn't clarify that something in an article is incorrect. You know, clearly British society applying an even standard here.
We've already got a terrible article here. We've got 2 of the 3 people interviewed. One doesn't remotely fit the supposed remit of the article. The other one is a massive unchallenged racist, okay?
Yeah, to be fair...
But it's the one in the middle.
Firstly, like, you say what that guy, the last dude there in the article said was offensive, but you should have heard what the guy who Helen Pidd actually managed to interview in this most recent trip said. Like, that shit just wasn't usable. No.
Well, I've got a theory about that I'll come to later when I've discussed Andrew in a minute.
But I think that this was what... Obviously, there was a wider backlash to this, but I think that specific thing where she talked to the guy with bizarre and offensive views on immigration, I think this might have been one of the things that Beth Redmond on Twitter was atting Helen Pidd about. I've only got Pidd's reply here. But Helen Pidd said, reporting involves ... reporting what people say. If you want to understand why Labour lost places like Lee, listening to what their ex-voters say is important, whether or not you, or indeed I, agree with their views. P.S. I don't write the headlines, a classic journalist, ancient journalistic adage. I mean, if indeed she was talking about the anti-immigration man there, that's such a similar quote to Jimothy Baker in the latest Gatecast, when he says, "Thanks for the ride, my good taxi man. And whilst as a liberal, I don't personally agree with your theories about white supremacy and the need for the death penalty, I will make sure to uncritically repeat them in my column about what the common man thinks and why Labour needs to be more racist."
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's just extremely good timing that episode of Gatecast dropped not all that long before this absolute textbook. You know, normally there's a bit more attempt to disguise exactly what it is they're doing, you know, and sort of sneak it in. Whereas this article is just a really clumsy fucking, here's a racist and a child and what we're about to come to here.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, so this is why we call this shit Pizzeriagate. I just want to say I'm very proud of the 2 words that I contributed to that line, which were, by the way, uncritically repeat. Anyway, yes, let's get to the third, but not final, character who we meet in this excellent piece.
So I think the justification for this, again, it's what do people think of Rishi Sunak's statement. He's obviously had this thing where you can get 2 for Tuesdays, but in a restaurant on certain days of the week. Half price.
It's socialism.
That is socialism. That is tanks on Labour's lawn and not, in fact, a Groupon.
The Marxist conspiracy goes far, man. They've got the Tories now. The left, they control everything.
Yeah, tanks on hotukdeals.com's lawn. They decided they wanted to speak to someone in the restaurant or bar trade. Things are reopening, there's policies relating to them. And you'd think, given the remit is let's talk to ordinary working class voters who've changed from Labour to the Tories, you would simply speak to someone who works in a bar or a restaurant, who are low paid, extremely insecure work at the best of times. Now it's off the scale.
Nah, fuck those people.
And all sorts of concerns about safety.
Who cares about them? Like, you know, like what? Just for little... You want to talk to someone who's made something of their life.
Even though the specific fucking premise of the article is to people who are not what this guy is. But basically what she's done, she's looked at a pizza restaurant there, and she's decided to interview not a furloughed waiter or waitress or the barman there or kitchen staff or anything like that, but the owner, the superbly named Andrew 20man. If any other leader was in charge of Labour right now, he'd be Andrew 40man. So this guy is the owner of a pizza restaurant, so again it's not really fitting the bill. And it's weird because they use the kind of framing that's normally meant to sort of subtly indicate or some sneaky left-wing hipster who shouldn't be listened to. In the town centre on Wednesday afternoon, Andrew 20man was on the phone, sourcing Nduja sausage for his artisanal pizza parlour. Well, hang on, isn't that the sort of thing Wes Streeting kicks off about? Or Owen Smith, you know?
Lee is known for its extensive Nduja sausage mines. You can often see the pit workers coming out, their face blackened with sausage meat.
I just realised I've been mispronouncing Lee for the whole episode so far, but it balances out because obviously Jack's struggling just slightly there with the sausage.
I think is how it's pronounced.
That's the one, yeah. Jack 420 man at it again. So he was
why didn't mean to be that guy with his artisanal marijuana play? Well, presumably because it's massively illegal. He's a fugitive from justice.
Not very good fugitive for justice if he's in the Guardian every week. But yeah, a first-time tour. So he's just reopened his pizza restaurant. Okay, great, reduced capacity. A first-time Tory voter in December's general election, Sunak's hospitality package made him feel massively vindicated for switching his vote from Labour. Because if Labour had been in charge, under Corbyn or under Starmer, they would have just said, all the restaurants and pubs in the country can hang.
There would have been like, no money, we've got to tighten our belts, there is no money left.
There were two choices: do nothing at all whatsoever and basically let people starve, or reduce tax and give some people a half-price meal on specific days of the week, so they're all cramming into the restaurants on specific days of the week when we're trying to be maintaining social distancing. Those are the only two options you have, and by voting for the blue team, he's got the right option there.
This
so
is
I agree
why
with him.
I can't support the profligate Conservative Party. Government spending is like a household budget. You've got to have the same amount going in and coming out. Well, that's what Jeremy Corbyn always said.
Yeah, Mr. Corbyn, with your sexual thirst for pizza restaurants going out of business specifically, you have made it impossible for me, the owner of a pizza restaurant, the owner of the means of my own production, to support your party. Can you imagine what state would be in if Jeremy Corbyn had been in charge of all this, he asked, as the corpses pile up around him in the street.
Yeah, what about Corbyn? I tell you, I walked into the room, my dad was like just talking to a bunch of his mates. I thought they were like his business friends or whatever, but it turned out they were actually his mates from uni, and they must have all just like moved massively to the right, because like one of them was literally when I walked in, this is a couple of months ago, but he was like, oh, can you imagine how things would be if Jeremy Corbyn was in charge? And I was just literally like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? But yeah, wow. This guy saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it also sounds like Mike Lee is scripting your life, but...
Is this what the people are saying? Is a certain strata of society are all just desperately rationalising their Tory vote to themselves, like, yeah, if Jeremy Corbyn was in, I'd be in the gulag by now. As if that wouldn't have drastically improved society.
30 people dead at a care home like 3/4 of a mile away, and you're just there like, I'd like to see how Magic Grandad would be dealing with this.
Oh, no, it would be so incompetent. We'd
Silly old man. Hasn't even got any A-levels.
Wankers. Anyway, speaking of wankers...
So in this, he just talks about all the help he's got from his government. At the start of lockdown, he furloughed himself, his wife, and their 7 employees. Again, it's not just a hole-in-the-wall place. If you've got 7 employees, and presumably your wife on the payroll as well, from how that's phrased, you're not working class.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure Helen Page knows if she frames it in the subheading and in her tweets on Twitter, so she can't just be like, oh, I don't write the headlines, as I'm interviewing working class voters to see what they think. And then here she's like, a lot of this stuff Rishi Sunak's done is about restaurants, so I'm interviewing a restaurant owner. She's just trying to do 2 articles in one, and they're both shit.
She's like, what's the only restaurant owner I know? How about the guy that I interviewed for The Guardian back in fucking May, 2 months ago?
Yeah, that's about it. That's like the entire article has been covered there. But
yeah,
obviously people thought that was a bit off. It's supposed to be about what the ordinary people of Lee think, and you've got a business owner, a massive open racist whose quotes were 3 months old, and a child who has never been able to vote and doesn't meet the article. So people looked into it, and they found that Mr. Andrew Twentyman has been interviewed before in The Guardian. He's a bit of a regular, if anything, okay?
Yeah, this guy's going to be the next John Harris himself.
We've seen how Raphael Bear basically did a load of shit jobs at The Guardian as a favour for whichever editor was his mate, the etiquette articles and stuff like that, and the shoes aren't shaped like feet and all this shit.
Only good thing he has ever done.
And he's eventually parlayed that into a more secure and more prestigious job as one of their main politics people.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Twentyman's trying to do this even more by the back door. If he gets interviewed enough in The Guardian with different reasons to be like, I hate the left as an ordinary working class employer, business owner. Me and my 7 employees all agree the left are bad for us working classes,
Well, but they clearly think that he's photogenic because they've used him as the picture of both articles.
This comes back to my theory again, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, they have used the photo the same when they've done him before. There were a few tweets floating around while people were looking into this that implied he was maybe fairly well known locally as being a bit of a rent-a-quote, a bit of someone who's quite happy to get himself in the press. So you're thinking at that point, okay, Helen's been a bit wallet inspected there. He's sort of talked his way into getting in both of these articles. But it doesn't seem like it, because Twitter user @ReadOnlyMike has had a look themselves, as a lot of people were at that point, to see what was happening there. And she found another Lee resident called Jonathan Twentyman. Turns out to be his brother, older brother by the look of it. There's a photo of him in PPE and a hard hat, which is what extremely posh people do.
Yeah.
Elaborate mating
ritual. Is he in the Conservative cabinet?
Is he in the fucking Labour front bench? They love the old PPE photo shoot again right now. But yeah, he owns, is it a different type of restaurant? Is it a bar? No, he owns a property development firm.
Yes.
And is followed on here by Helen Pidd, probably just a coincidence. So
the poor, the downtrodden, your huddled masses, the property developers and their brothers, the artisanal pizzeria owners.
Whichever one she's initially been a friend of, that's how she knows the other one for. And people also found, now this may be from where she went to Lee the first time, because it's in March, a tweet from Helen Pidd. I just ate an excellent pizza in Lee, and you should too. 20man's the place is called. This is him here. And there's the link to creativetourist.com, the artful black and white photos of this place. It looks like a shit version of a very nice place called Pisano's in Glasgow. It's the same sort of pizza and that, but there's various ways this can happen. She's eaten there, and some of the more serious reviews, if you go back on like TripAdvisor and stuff like that, say like the owner likes to come out and have a chat, he's proud of his restaurant and all this sort of thing, and it kind
Fake
of
reviews
reading between, I think reading between the lines, people have probably enjoyed their meal, but I get the idea that he's absolutely insufferable, because whenever some people leave not just bad reviews but good reviews that are qualified a bit,
yeah, it's always just like, you fucking cunt.
Yeah, someone gave him a 4-star review.
Yeah.
They said it was a bit pricey for Lee, but it was one of the best pizzas I have ever eaten. Okay, if you're running a pizza restaurant, I think you'd be happy with that. 4 stars as well, so it's not going to ruin his livelihood by driving the ratings down or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he's left several, it's a really brief review, and he's left a long several paragraph rant that finishes with him saying...
It starts, cunt. No, it doesn't. It starts with the guy's name, but he's just like, Lewis. Just one sentence, just like he's lecturing a toddler.
Yeah. But it ends with, like, Domino's have usually got vouchers on you, cunt, or something like that, you know? Literally, like, oh, you fucking pleb, go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, and the fact that even the nice reviews are like, yeah, the owner came out and had a chat, he seemed quite proud of himself. This guy is just insufferable, isn't he?
Well, I just want to say,
page.
It's not just him who steams in to defend his own honour on Google reviews. His wife will sometimes wade in on his defence as well. So in The Guardian, he said, the BBC in particular should be setting an example. I've had to stop watching it. I watch RT now. The Guardian has helpfully added brackets Russia Today and get news from all around the world instead. And on Google, somebody gave him a 3-star review. This was a month ago. Great restaurant. Shame about the Guardian quote about watching Russian propaganda and thinking it makes him enlightened.
Do you reckon that's like fucking Falcon Malteser or someone just going on a road trip and absolutely raging because he's Googling everyone that works there while he's there?
There's a piece here, headline, response from the owner. Well, hello, Matthew Collins. It's Liz, Andrew's wife. Thank you for your stupid review. We live in a democracy, and Andrew is entitled to his opinion, as is everyone. He is not a communist or Russian sympathiser. He is just fed up of the BBC and other UK news agencies reporting nothing but sensationalist and unhelpful quote-unquote news stories. I love how he's not even been accused of being a communist, and his wife is just like, he is not one of Putin's communists, okay? Your review, she says, has nothing to do with the quality of a product and all to do with your political bias, and that is bang out of order. You have been reported to Google. By the way, I've called your manager. By the way, folks. You've been
reported to Google.
Sorry.
I love it.
By the way, folks, looks like quote-unquote Matthew, if that even is your real name, is from Aberystwyth, South Wales, and possibly may never even have been to 20 months. Please enlighten me if I'm wrong, quote-unquote Matthew, keyboard warrior, Labour Party plant, whatever you think you are, grow up! What's the weather like in St. Petersburg this time of year, comrade?
I thought that the nurse in that article was anti-immigration, but we've got someone here who just can't conceive people making their way from Wales to the north of England in any circumstances in their life.
The Welsh are just flooding our NHS with diseases. God damn them. God damn them! Oh my god, there's another one here. Someone called Laura says, food was okay, little expensive for what I got. Best bit is the decor needs finishing. Response from the owner. Hi Laura, sorry you feel that the food was only okay. Guess everything in life is subjective. We use the best ingredients.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, and being an individual small business, we don't get cheaper prices like chains do. If you check our prices compared to takeaway chains like Domino's, we are actually very competitive. Any extra you pay at 20mans is reflective of the fact that you sit in and take advantage of our great staff and facilities, such as the fully licensed bar, heating, lighting, toilets, etc. As for the decor, it is finished. It's supposed to look the way it does. Just like the wall like collapsing on people and stuff. It's like, again, it's just Mike Gapes. That is how I designed it. People are supposed to die.
Just an absurd. You see that quite often. Restaurant owners that just cannot take criticism under any circumstances. But the fact that this guy is putting himself forward and he's been framed as like, this guy's a great guy, you know, and he's like very obviously not. Lewis, you get what you pay for. You have just reduced our average rating because you have an opinion about us being expensive. Yes, that's how reviews work, you know, they look at things. Yeah. You didn't calculate in the costs involved in renovating the premises.
So, I mean, if he was
I doubt he had the figures to hand, to be honest. Like,
if he was pissed off about negative reviews a month ago, I mean, the last few days, he must have been just a constant ball of rage. Because, so for example, from one Jan Darvis, 1 star is generous, if anything. The food was only mildly awful, but I was particularly disturbed by a man who claimed to be the proprietor's vitriolic rants about cultural Marxism and the dangers of postmodernism. This political grandstanding, needless to say, did not compensate for the advanced salmonella currently rampaging through my immune system. 1 star. 14 upvotes.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Jonathan Twentyman, the property guy, is a director of the pizza restaurant. Someone local on Twitter was claiming that he'd put most of the initial funding in as well. I don't obviously know the truth of that. But he's also a director of a property firm, a previous dissolved property firm, which I'm sure is all on the up and up and wasn't just dissolving one and starting up the next day with an identical one to fuck over your staff and clients. And an electrical contracting firm as well. So this guy's absolutely minted. He probably owns half the town. And he's just given his fucking idiot brother who can't stop getting into fights in all his jobs. Just do a restaurant, mate. You can cook. Just have a restaurant. It's not really even by the standards of like, right, it's quite difficult to get a restaurant to thrive even before all this shit happened. A lot of them fail within a couple of years. But you can't in this case even portray it as like, oh, well, he's done well in a different marketplace. He's been given loads of money by his extremely rich brother straight from the pay packets of dozens of renters in the town. You know, it's the exact. This is a guy. It's like the surprise here about Mr. Twentyman, the pizza chef, is that this was the first time he's voted Tory. You know.
Yeah.
He maybe didn't have a class consciousness before that, and now he's like, fuck, I might have to pay a bit more tax if literally anyone else ever gets in.
Well, it appears that there's actually a controversy ensuing on the Google reviews page. So Giuseppe McCullough says, in a 2-star review with 28 upvotes, I had to leave a review after what I saw yesterday. So Giuseppe is blowing the whistle here. This place received a number of reviews in response to the owner appearing in a news article in which he said some questionable things, mainly just that he voted Tory. But yeah, it is understandable that Google chose to remove them. Most of them were jokes. Yeah, there was one which was just like, the food was nice, but there was a small man being tortured outside the toilets. Or something. And it was clear many of the reviewers had never visited his establishment. However, the perfidious owner has had dozens of that's a great use of perfidious, has had dozens of legitimate negative reviews removed at the same time.
I've just found Sorry, go ahead.
Reviews complaining about his high prices, ingredients, and tendency to overcook. All the positive reviews he had friends leave in response to the review bombing have remained up, and that's true. There definitely was like a sudden flurry of like, oh, it's the best fucking place.
Very low effort positive ones, yeah.
People put way more effort into the ones about like the small man being flayed to death. This calls into question every single review here. If the owner can choose what remains on this page, then reviews are meaningless. He has even had actual photos of his establishment removed because they painted him in an unflattering light. Trust nothing you see here.
Wow. There's one on here that's remained up that is amazing by a guy called Samir Segal. I was enjoying my experience in the venue because it entertained a casual working class vibe, which obviously means it radiated reactionary northern wealth and pretentiousness. Nevertheless, when my pizza arrived, I couldn't help but notice my Anduja pizza, specially shipped in, appeared to actually emulate a sponge soaked in urine, with a thick coating of Dolmio marinara sauce. Obviously I ate it in order not to appear rude, and then I proceeded to wait 13 hours for my bill to arrive. The pizza and tap water came to £174.99, which I thought a tad extortionate. However, I know that the owner subscribes on minimum wage, therefore I gave a 20% tip on top. By this point, I was slightly frustrated and feeling queasy from all the ingested urine. However, I thought to myself, it could be worse. Imagine if Corbyn was Prime Minister. And that stayed up with 10 upvotes and is definitely genuine.
Well, what the guy's done, clearly he's just reported all the reviews with negative ratings and kept the ironic ones up, so long as they ironically give him a positive rating. So there's one which was just like, there were thousands of people being forced into work during a deadly pandemic, and I'm pretty sure my pizza had some human excrement on it. But imagine the state it would have been if Corbyn had been in charge. And then they posted a picture of Andrew Twentyman. Yeah. And because that review saying that there's human shit in his pizza came with a 5-star rating, he's just like, yeah, that one could stay up.
Someone's got a 1-star review that stayed up. They've done loads of Google reviews, so I think they treat him as a trusted reviewer, and that's why it stayed up. 1 star, not 4 times as good as Five Guys, as the name would suggest.
There's one which is a 2-star negative review with 43 upvotes. Pizza was rather doughy, not bad for British pizza, but it's a far cry from a Labour government. And there's a couple of others like that are just making gentle jabs at how what matters is that Corbyn is not in and people are dying. And then there's a load of people who've left 1-star reviews but without really elaborating on why, which probably puts them on safer ground in terms of not getting their ones deleted. I think my one is still... I mean, the one that I didn't write is still up by the looks of it. It seems like, I mean, I can still view it, but maybe that's deceptive. I don't know.
There's a 2-star one up that says, my server was a charming man. I could tell he was working class himself as he was wearing an apron. What name did you leave yours under?
Jan Darvis. That was me.
Trying to see it.
It's the fucking email account I used for the Jarvis for Justice Twitter account.
Wow, the owner's responded to one that's just a 1-star one with no review attached to it, and he's accused him of it being fake, just because it was left within 12 hours of Guardian article. Yet he's then immediately got loads of his mates to leave ones within 12 hours of a Guardian article.
Yeah. I think like maybe some of them are his mates, but you know, I don't reckon he's got that many mates. I think some of them are just like him and his wife. And maybe his brother.
Oh god, the guy that he goes off on for giving it 4 stars and saying it's one of the best pizzas he's ever had but a bit expensive has added loads of photos of him and his family enjoying their meal to the review. This guy's doing his best to be like, hey, this is a nice place, come and eat here, we had a great time. And the guy's just steamed into him and gone, go and eat your Dominoes with their mass-produced fats and flours.
So, I mean, I just wanted to get to Helen Pidd's reaction. So we already read one of her tweets about this, but like the other ones were even better. So she started, for those alleged Labour supporters who have been... Yeah, I'm sure it was just Tory trolls trying to give us honest, good-hearted Labour supporters who would never post vexatious reviews on a guy's Google review page. I'm sure it's just them framing us. You're right, Helen. But anyway, she says, for those alleged Labour supporters who have been trying to get ex-Labour voters in this story cancelled, shame on you. Why not try to understand why Lee went Tory and what it will take to win these folk back instead of piling on?
Okay, how are you going to understand that from the actual fucking article she's written now? We've read about the entire thing on this thing, and there's no actual content in there. She's just presenting wrong, you know, this guy's racist views are bullshit, and she's presenting them uncritically. How do we know how to combat that from just knowing there is a single racist in Lee?
Yeah.
Like,
no, God knows.
We don't know where he's got it from. We can probably guess in that it'll be one of the papers or whatever news channel he watches.
Or just like this 20 guy, he likes Rishi Sunak's programme of public investment. Okay, cool, well, Labour had one of those, so like, what should we take from this?
Here's a fucking twist, by the way.
What?
Twitter user at DocRods, who doesn't follow me, I don't follow them, but they've got a few mutuals with them, they seem fairly genuine. Also, Andrew Twentyman doesn't actually live in Lee. His home address is in the constituency of St Helens South. His MP is Labour's Conor McGinn.
Oh, Conor McGinn. I'm going to call his dad on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ben Beach @_Ben Beach, one word, said, "Nobody's been cancelled. Andrew Twentyman will continue to make sourdough. His brother will continue to develop properties. What we object to is you portraying them as working class voices and failing to interview one of the 1,000 surviving on £409 per month universal credit since March." And Helen Pidd is like, "You can be working class and run a restaurant, or indeed be a property developer. Ask Andrew Twentyman how much money he makes from a pizzeria. Minimum wage. The Guardian interviews UC claimants all the time. I'm sure I will do so in Lee soon. Not now, but I'm going to talk to property developers."
When you definitely understand how class works and how running small businesses work. Oh, he pays himself minimum wage, therefore he is poor.
You can be working class and be a property developer. It's just all-time great quote. I love it. But yeah, obviously everyone pointed out that like business owners pay themselves minimum wage. It's just like how they, technically, it's just like how they do the books to make it look like they're making less than they are a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's just absurd. My theory, anyway. She's gone there not allegedly. She's gone there in March, right, with the photographer. They've done they've done some reporting, and they've gone back again just recently, just the other day. But they've interviewed people they already know, people they've interviewed before, exclusively. The photo of Mr. Twentyman in particular is like the exact same one they've used when the paper's interviewed him previously.
Well, it's a different photo, but it looks like it's from the same shoot.
Yeah, it is clearly the same shoot.
I don't know, unless this guy is the first recruit of Guardian models.
Maybe he's been getting illegal lockdown haircuts. I don't know. But anyway, and the fact as well that they've not really made any effort to get people that suit the stated remit of the article. None of them quite fit it, apart from arguably the racist nurse. And it's very minimal. You can't tell if there's any new quotes from him or if it's all stuff from March, which is kind of implied by the phrasing. I think she just couldn't be asked. I think she's literally got a couple of people she's interviewed previously or has got on her Facebook. In the Twentyman's case, probably someone she wants to help big them up and promote their restaurant as well, because she had a nice pizza there and she's friends with his brother. So she's literally just give some people a ring, chatted them for 5 minutes. You alright for us to use you in this? If she needs it, get a few new quotes. And that's it, that's your article. I mean, the good thing here, we talk about automation and that's not quite what this is, but she's essentially
we are not alleging Helen Pidd is a robot. Nobody has said that. Although on Twitter there is a conspiracy theory that she, Emma Kennedy and Emma Barnett are the same person.
No, they're not the same person. That's ridiculous. They're 3 evolutions of the same person, like in Pokemon, you know?
Or they could be clones. Like Gapes could have lent out his cloning technology, but clones of which one? That's the question. Which one was Patient Zero?
There's Pokemon where you have to give them like a moonstone or something to evolve them into their final form, and this is like that, except they evolve into Helen Pidd, but just like putting a flat cap on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's clearly just not fancy doing any work. But the fact that she's just churned out the same old shit they always print anyway in The Guardian, doing no work, with probably about an hour or two's effort put into the entire thing at most. John Harris is going to be out of a job very, very soon, because they've been literally paying his train fare, paying his transport all around the country. He at least chats to a few people. He only uses the ones that fit the conclusion paragraph he's already written, but he's technically doing some work, and what's the need for it anymore? They've got someone who can do that just via Facebook Messenger on their lunch break.
Yeah, and I mean, she's been clarifying to someone was like, Lee has an artisan pizza place, and she was like, yes, very good pizza too. So, I mean, this is like a bold new... I always say like a bold new front and such, but like a bold new front in client journalism has been opened.
So much so that her tweets about the actual article herself that she's written, it looks like they violate Twitter's rules on sponsored and promoted content, or I think it's more the Advertising Standards Agency's use of social media rules. I think a lot of that goes on, to be fair. They only really focus on like Instagram influencers and the sort of stuff that Alan Sugar does. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He's just always promoting some mad teeth whitener product or some absolute tat that someone who came 4th 10 series ago on The Apprentice is punting. And he just posts shameless adverts for them, like tells you what shops you can buy them in and all this stuff. And he's actually been slapped on the wrist for it, so he puts #ad on them all now. But anything short of that, you can get away with murder promoting stuff.
Not that we are alleging that Helen Pidd has murdered anyone.
No, that was just someone she interviewed that's got away with murder.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Yeah. Helen Pidd might have known him already. She may have interviewed him previously when this happened. I don't know. But there's no suggestion whatsoever that she was an accomplice to the murder, and that letting the guy get his racist opinions in the national press in a nominally left paper was the trade-off for her silence.
Nobody suggested that at all.
No.
At no point.
No, that would be ridiculous.
Yes, to clarify, it would be ridiculous to say, I repeat. So, this has been Pizzeriagate, like one of those fascinating exercises in a kind of confected British political scandal.
Definitely the most devious conspiracy anyone's ever hatched involving pizza in the world.